Welcome back to Diet Doctor News on YouTube. Have you seen some of our content about higher satiety eating, or have you maybe even tried this concept of higher satiety eating and have some questions about it now? Well, since we've published a number of our educational guides about higher satiety eating, we've gotten some questions and some feedback that I wanted to answer in this video because it's important. You know, higher satiety eating can be that sort of magic key so many people are looking for because people want help with healthy weight loss without having to be hungry, without having to white knuckle it, and still being able to find foods you really enjoy and love to have a sustainable approach to healthy weight loss and metabolic health. And that's part of our goal with higher satiety eating. So one of the questions is like, why are we introducing this concept at all, right? Like keto and low carb work so well for so many people. Why are we now transitioning or branching out? Well, here's the thing. Yeah, keto and low carb work for so many people. There's no question about it. So we're not transitioning away from that. We're adding an added layer because we also have to be honest that keto and low carb don't work for everybody, right? There's no one diet for everybody. But this higher satiety concept can work with any diet, including a keto diet. So we say it over and over again. If you're following a keto diet and you're hitting your weight loss goals and you're hitting your metabolic health goals and it's easy for you to do and you enjoy it, don't change a thing. There's no reason to change a thing. What we're trying to do is provide alternatives for people who either aren't succeeding on a keto diet, don't like a keto diet, or whatever the case may be, right? To reach more people with this concept of higher satiety eating. And the key principle is simple. It's about eating better, not eating less. Finding the foods that are going to fill you up, provide you with the protein and nutrition that you need, and contribute to improved metabolic health. And doing so in the fewest amount of calories, right? Because we can feel full by just gorging on food. But that's not what we want. We want to pick the right foods, eating better to help us feel full, improve our metabolic health, and reduce our hunger. That's the concept of higher satiety eating. And there's science to support this. We're very clear that this is evidence-based. Now, we did get some questions about this. Our actual satiety calculator has not been studied. But what the satiety calculator is based on is evidence from the scientific literature about the individual components, right? So it's like the concept of, lifting weights and getting sleep and quitting smoking have all individually been shown to be beneficial, but there aren't many studies showing the combination are beneficial, but I'm still going to recommend that to my patients because they're all individually shown to be beneficial. Well, the same thing for getting more protein, eating lower energy dense foods, eating higher fiber foods, and avoiding foods with this hedonic characteristics that stimulate you to want to eat more and more. Those four individually have evidence to support their role in satiety in different ways. And by combining them, that's how we get to our higher satiety scores, our higher satiety calculator, and our meal plans and recipes and all that to help people adopt a higher satiety diet. And I'm reluctant to even call it a diet because, there's a big push now against anti-diet culture. And what does that mean? Well, diet to me means having to, always focus on your food and kind of being hungry and depriving yourself and, having to white knuckle until you get to your next meal. And this is not that, right? This is designed specifically to not be that. So you find foods you enjoy, they're easy to prepare, that help you feel full so you're not constantly thinking about food. That's the sort of anti-diet culture we want to promote. So it's a higher satiety way of eating. Other people say, well, isn't this just the old calories in, calories out? You just have to reduce your calories and you're fine. But again, the same concept, right? 200 calories of salmon is not the same as 200 calories of donuts. So it's not just about reducing your calories. It's not just about eating less. It's about eating more because we're not a calorimeter. We're not a closed circuit machine. We are complex human beings with emotions and hunger and hormones, all right? And food impacts all of those things. And that's why eating better helps address all this. One of the other questions that came up is now, one way of eating higher satiety is lowering your fat and increasing your fibrous carbs. So then the question is, well, is this just the old low-fat, high-carb diet? And the answer is no. It doesn't have to be, right? We also promote a higher satiety keto diet, which would mean instead of maybe like a 75% fat diet, maybe it's a 65% fat diet, which still by no means is a low-fat diet. That's still a high-fat diet, but it's just changing it, right? So it's finding the right mix for you that combines adequate protein, low energy density foods, higher fiber foods, low hedonic characteristics. And whatever macro composition that comes up with, you can likely find a fit for that. So whether it's low-fat, high-carb, whether it's low carb, high fat, or whether it's, just a Mediterranean style diet, the higher satiety concepts fit to all of those diets. So it isn't promoting one type of diet, but it is opening the door to lots of different options to fit your individual wants. Now, is it, everything in moderation? No, it's definitely not everything in moderation, because again, the higher energy density, low fiber, high hedonic characteristic foods do not fit well into this way of eating. So those are the ones you want to minimize to prioritize the higher protein foods without those characteristics, right? So it's not an everything in moderation, because we know that does not work. And then there were some questions about the science. And this is what I find really interesting, and we try to be as clear about as we can. So the science supporting low energy density foods and higher fiber foods can be really helpful for satiety in the short term. Because if all you ate were, fruits and vegetables, which are higher fiber and low energy density, you're going to be hungry in the long term, right? You may be hungry even in the medium term, an hour or two after your meal, you're going to be hungry. So that's why we don't just say just eat those. That's why you have to combine them with the higher protein foods for the mix of short-term and long-term satiety that really works, I believe, clinically. And that's what we're starting to see in our own internal experiments. But now there's also a question about protein, right? Where is that threshold for protein? If 25% protein is good, does that mean 50% protein is better? And it's clear there is a difference in the curves, okay? If you're going from the RDA of 0.8 grams per kilogram, or 50 grams of protein per day, which is really insufficient for satiety, for optimal metabolic health and muscle building and so forth. If you go from that level to the 1.5 or 1.6 grams per kilo, or the 80 to 110 grams of protein, maybe about 20-25% grams, that's where the majority of the evidence shows your biggest improvement in satiety, your biggest improvement in reducing your overall caloric intake and improving your diet quality. That's where the majority of the evidence is. But as you go beyond that level, to maybe the 2 grams per kilo or the 35% protein, the curves still tend to go up in terms of satiety, but the slope of the curve is much more shallow. So to explain that a different way, you get the biggest bang for your buck, getting from low protein to a good amount of protein, however you define that. We define it as about the 1.6 grams per kilo. And going beyond that, you get less benefit, but still some benefit, right? So the focus should be on getting up to that sort of 100-gram protein level for males, 100, 110, maybe 80, 90 for women, depending on your size, but around that 1.6 grams per kilo of reference body weight. So we want to be clear about the strength of the evidence, and we have guides talking specifically about the evidence of protein and satiety, the evidence of energy density and satiety, and the evidence of hedonic foods and satiety. And so that's one of the other things that came up is, what about carbs? What about, people get stimulated by carbs and crave carbs, and that drives overeating. Well, some people, yes. And that's a big pushback from the keto crowd, because people have been eating a ketogenic diet for so long, have transformed their health dramatically by getting rid of carbs. And if they start eating carbs again, many of them find that they spiral a little bit. So it is absolutely clear there are people who have addiction-like reactions to carbs. But it's also clear that that's not everybody. Just like some people can eat 1 or 2 potato chips or 1 or 2 French fries and not be stimulated to eat more. And some people, boom, it's just you're off to the races. And before you know it, the whole bag is gone. There's a mix there, just like there is a mix for people with carbohydrates as well. Some people are going to do very well on a higher carb, lower fat diet, as long as those carbs are the higher fat, higher satiety carbs. But by no means does that mean everybody should eat that way, right? And this is where it's important to know you, which is a little more complicated, right? The rules for a low-carb or keto diet are very simple. Lower your carbs, fill in with fat, make sure you're getting enough protein, done, right? Very simple rules. The rules to higher satiety seem a little bit more complicated compared to that. But in the general scheme of things, I think it's still relatively simple rules. Make sure you're getting adequate protein, and then focus on low energy density, higher fiber foods that don't have hedonic characteristics. And the hedonic characteristics are the added sugar, the combination of carbs, fat, salt, sugar, that combination, the ultra processed foods, those types of foods, right? So it doesn't have to be that complex. Now, we have resources at Diet Doctor, guides about the best high satiety foods. Our recipes are going to have a satiety score on them so you know where they stand. We're working on improving our satiety calculator so you can just type in foods and figure out where they are on that satiety scale. So you can either use our recipes and meal plans for your higher satiety eating, or design your own with our tools and with our references. The idea is to get you following the diet that works for you, that helps you optimize your nutrition and create a healthy energy deficit where you can have healthy weight loss without being hungry, without white knuckling it, without worrying about your food all the time, and improve your metabolic health. That's the goal. So we'd love your feedback. We'd love you to try it out because it's something we want to constantly evolve, both with the science and with our clinical experience, to find out what works best for a wide swath of people. And again, if you're following any kind of diet, if you're following a high carb, low fat vegan diet, and you are doing fantastic on it, getting your supplements, hitting your health goals, good for you. Ignore this video. If you are following a keto diet and you're losing weight in a healthy way, you're no longer hungry, it works so well in your lifestyle, you're improving your metabolic health, again, turn this video off, forget you ever heard it. But for those of you who aren't in one of those camps, who are looking for something better or something different, we think higher satiety eating might be the right path for you. Thanks a lot. If this was helpful, click thumbs up and subscribe. And please check us out at dietdoctor.com and check us out here on YouTube so you'll get all the updates and our new Diet Doctor News videos. All right, take care, everybody. Have a great day.